What's up, YouTube? This is the Upstart Goblin here. I'm coming at you guys with something a little different than what I normally do on my channel. This is the first video in a series called How to Play Nekroz, in which, in case you couldn't figure it out, I'm going to teach you guys how to play Nekroz. For those of you that don't know, the Nekroz is a water ritual archetype that is going to be coming out February 13th, I think the date is, in the set called the Secret Forces, which is going to be the new hidden arsenal type thing for the TCG. There are also three cards for the deck in the Secrets of Evolution set, which the sneak peek is this weekend. So if you wanted to pick that up, and you're going to look at the deck first, I'm going to run you through what all the cards do here and try and get you a basic understanding of the deck before I start showing you the combo plays and everything this deck can do. This is a deck I picked up a couple months ago and basically loved it from the beginning, because partially for the nostalgia. Like, look how awesome that TRISHULA guy is. So, man, I loved all the Ice Barrier Dragons. I played in those formats. Those were a blast. I miss them, and if we can't have the real TRISHULA back, then I'll take this guy wearing her dead body. And yes, that's actually what they are. They are warriors that wear the dead corpses of famous monsters and strong monsters in history. So with that being said, on that happy note, we'll get right into it. Starting with the first guy, Nekroz of CLAUSOLAS. Now, I made these proxies on Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Maker. I just did it so we can see the English text, or at least the best translation of the English text that we have so far. And I'm going to try and figure out how to put a link in the description where you can download these proxies if you wanted to print them out with the right size and put them in card sleeves and play with them in real life instead of just on Dueling Network or DevPro, what be it. Anyway, this first guy here is a level 3 ritual monster. All the Nekroz have two effects, basically. They have the effect that you can use while they're on the field, and an effect that you can use by discarding them from your hand that will help to either speed up the consistency of your deck or give you some kind of other advantage. So starting with this first guy, the Nekroz of CLAUSOLAS, you can ritual summon with any Nekroz ritual spell card. There's a couple of those, we'll get to those later. Must be ritual summon, cannot be special summoned by other ways, fair enough. You can discard this card to add any Nekroz spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is really pretty good as far as the deck goes. For those of you that may be new to the game, ritual monsters have never actually made a splash in the game because of a few reasons. To start with, if you needed a ritual summon, in the old days at least, before we started getting some cooler ritual monsters and like advanced ritual art that would let you do this, if you wanted to perform a ritual summon, you needed to have a specific ritual spell card in your hand, along with a specific ritual monster, and monsters to tribute from your hand or field. Now, committing 3 cards to a ritual monster that, well, a lot of the ritual monsters in the old days just plain old weren't very good. They had decent stats for a beater, and then a lot of them didn't even have any effects, which is why cards like Zira the Mant, let's say, never really took off and saw play. The previous ritual archetype we've had was Gishki. That was the only ritual archetype I think we've had in the game so far. It was also water, and that really never took off, even though we started to make steps in the right direction. See, the problem that they fixed with the Gishki was having the ritual spell do something other than just ritual summon. With the Gishki ritual spell, you could recycle monster. What was it? You could shuffle it back into the deck. I don't know. It did something in the graveyard where it either recycled itself or recycled monsters. It was also searchable by several of their cards, which made the deck a little bit more consistent, but Nekroz take this to a whole new level. Anyway, I blabbered on a bit there, but the second effect of Nekroz of CLAUSOLAS is used while it's on the field. During either player's turn, you can target one monster on the field that was special summoned from the extra deck. Its attack becomes 0 and its effects are negated. And these changes last until the end of the turn, and you can only use each effect once per turn. That's going to hold true for all the Nekroz as you see. So even if you have multiple copies on board, multiple copies in your hand, you can only activate one. Next guy is our level 4 ritual. This is the Nekroz of UNICORE, and I'm going to say he's one of the best cards in the deck, if not the best. So his effect starts off, you can ritual summon it with any Nekroz ritual spell card. Must be ritual summoned, can't be special summoned by other ways, the usual. You can discard this card, then target one Nekroz card in your graveyard, except Nekroz of UNICORE, and add it to your hand. So this is good for 2 different things. One, you're going to be adding back any of your ritual monsters that you may have discarded. If you need another search off BRIONAC, which we'll get to in a minute, or you need another ritual spell from CLAUSOLAS that you've activated on a previous turn, dumping UNICORE lets you reuse any of those effects. Or if you run out of ritual spells, this guy will recycle them for you, which is broken to start with before you even get to what the ritual spells are. And then its effect while in the field, negate the effects of all face-up monsters in the field that were special summoned from the extra deck. That is a continuous effect, and it is pretty good. It will shut down a lot of things. That really hurts Stellar Knights if you just put a UNICORE out there and sit on it. It doesn't do a whole lot to Burning Abyss, which I think is going to be the #1 contender for the Tier 1 title with Nekroz, but this card is very good for another reason you'll see later too. So I'm skipping over the Nekroz of Catastrophe because it's so bad that you shouldn't even consider running it. It's got an awkward level, the effect's not that great, and really it should just not even be considered. So this guy I'm going to say is the heart of the deck. This is the Nekroz of BRIONAC. Same effects as the other two. You can ritual summon with any Nekroz ritual spell card. You can't use the Nekroz of BRIONAC for his ritual summon. And as you see the high levels, they get more and more restrictive as to what you can use to ritual summon them. So you can use another level 6 with this guy so long as it's not another BRIONAC. Its discard effect, you can discard this card to add one Nekroz monster from your deck to your hand except another BRIONAC, which is amazing. That's going to keep the consistency insane in this deck. So if you have the BRIONAC, you can essentially get any card in your deck pretty much, minus the ones that aren't ritual monsters or ritual spells, because you can discard him to search CLAUSOLAS and then add a ritual spell. Basically, you get your combo pieces to where they need to be, and he can search defense if you need to, because one of the higher levels is a really good defensive card. So that's just awesome to start with. Then you can target 1 or 2 monsters in the field that were special summoned from the extra deck while it's on the field and shuffle them into the deck. You can only use each effect of Nekroz of BRIONAC once per turn. So you're rarely going to get this guy on the field unless you're in a tight spot or you really need to. But what's awesome about his effect, that's going to hit any Cleforce that was special summoned from the extra deck. That's going to hit Dante. It's going to hit Virgil. It's going to hit both the Shadal monsters that are mostly used. This card's just going to get rid of so much, and since everything floats right now, sending it back to the extra deck's not going to let them float, which could be really key in a game, and it can turn the tides very easily. But like I said, the effect you're mostly going to be using him for is his discard to search. Next up we have the Nekroz of GUNGNIR. This is one of the cards that is going to be in the Secrets of Eternity in the TCG. We don't have a rarity confirmed on that yet. My guess would be secret. Don't quote me on that. I don't actually know. But anyway, you can ritual summon it with any Nekroz ritual spell. Must be ritual summoned by using monsters other than level 7 monsters and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This doesn't really turn out to be a problem with you since most decks will only run one of this card. But you can find ways to get it on board pretty easily, and it helps for some creative plays with KALEIDOMIRROR, which we'll get to later. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself very consistently. So during either player's turn, you can discard this card, then target one Nekroz monster you control. This turn it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So that effect seems pretty good for on paper. When you're trying to get the deck to be as aggressive and consistent as possible, though, having that kind of defense is better at a lower number. So I like to play it at 1 or 0. I haven't decided yet, but the second effect's good enough that it can at least be considered. Its field effect is during either player's turn, you can discard one Nekroz card, then target one card in the field, destroy it. You can only use each effect once per turn. So that is good because you will always have a Nekroz card in hand pretty much, and that will count the ritual spells and all the monsters. And that kind of disruption on either player's turn is crazy. It can turn itself into an end phase MST. It can do a lot of crazy disruption plays. And I'm going to say this card's good, similar to the way Spellbook of Fate is good. Trading one card for one card isn't necessarily game breaking, but the fact that you can do it during your opponent's turn and interrupt their plays is what makes this card viable. So I see this card being played at 1 in most Nekroz decks. Our level 8 guy, we got the Nekroz of VALKYRUS. Oh, for those of you that haven't noticed, the deceased monsters, I'm just going to go back through them real quick. That is Misbird CLAUSOLAS that he's wearing. That is Fabled UNICORE. That is BRIONAC Dragon of the Ice Barrier. That is GUNGNIR Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This guy is wearing the armor of Fabled VALKYRUS. which is a level 8 Fabled Synchro. This is one of the better cards in the deck, especially in the mirror match, because it's so defensively very good and it can speed up the consistency. So you can ritual summon it using any Nekroz ritual spell. Must be ritual summoned by using non-level 8 monsters. Can't be special summoned by other ways. Okay. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish a Nekroz card from your grave, discard it, negate the attack, and then the battle phase is over. This is really, really good. I think once we see Secret Forces come out, we're going to be moving into a much faster format than we've had in a long time. And that's pretty crazy that I can say that based on how fast this format is. But it's not going to be a 2-turn format anymore. It's going to be how fast can you OTK regardless of what you're playing. Nekroz, Burning Abyss, Shaddoll. That's what I see competing. Maybe an occasional Infernoid splashed in. I see Clifford still being tier 1. They're going to be the slower tier 1 deck. And that's saying something because Cliffords are not a slow deck at all. But it's going to be crazy. And getting that extra turn with Valkyrus, especially if they stop your play with an Effect Veiler or Vanity's Emptiness or something, buying yourself that extra turn is huge. Plus you can recycle it with UNICORE, so you can basically keep this going for a while until you draw your outs. Its second effect is on the field. You can tribute 1 or 2 monsters from your hand and or your side of the field, and if you do, draw 1 card for each card tributed. You can only use each effect once a turn. So the tributing effect, it's good in a pinch, and at first when I was looking at Japanese lists for Nekroz, I didn't quite understand why people were playing 3 of this card, because I was looking at it for more of that effect than the defensive effect. But the defensive effect is why you want to play it. Buying that extra turn in the mirror match could be the difference between winning and losing. And the other reason the field effect is good, I'll talk about in a minute, as we get into the level 9, the Nekroz of Trishula. This is the guy that makes people want to play this deck. You can ritual summon this card with any Nekroz ritual spell. It must be ritual summoned by using monsters other than level 9. Okay, fine, normal. During either player's turn, when a Nekroz monster you control is targeted by a card or effect, you can discard this card and negate the activation. So it's pretty good against Burning Abyss if we're going to have the Phoenix Wing and Karma Cut running wild still. For the most part, there's not a whole ton of other stuff that's going to be targeting in this format. But that's still a decent hand effect. But this is the weird one. When this card is ritual summoned, you can banish 1 card from your opponent's side of the field, hand, and graveyard. The important thing to realize with this effect, if your opponent does not have at least 1 card in their hand, field, and graveyard, you cannot use this effect. If there's nothing on their field, you cannot banish from their hand and graveyard. If there's nothing in their graveyard, you cannot banish from their field and hand. You see how this can become a problem. But if that effect gets off, that will be a crazy play, and you're basically putting yourself in the absolute best position to win if you're playing a Trishula. Thinking about the mirror match for a second. If you know that you cannot use the effect of Trishula if you don't have 1 card in every zone, you're not going to be playing many traps in a Nekroz deck, so you want to make sure that your field is empty if you're passing to your opponent and they're going to play a Trishula. You got VALKYRUS on the field. All you have to do is tribute him and the other monster you have under your control, draw 2 cards, get more resources for next turn, and then you leave your field open so they can't trish you. That's a really good play, depending on the game situation, of course, but it's one of the plays you can make with this deck, and I'm going to be talking more about the different plays this deck can make in later videos in the series. However, Trishula is your big heavy hitter. Next is a card that a lot of people don't really like, but I really, really like this card. The Nekroz of Decisive Armor. It's wearing the armor of Ally of Justice Decisive Armor. A little redundant to say Nekroz Armor of Decisive Armor, as they're saying the TCG name will be. We'll see. So you can ritual summon any Nekroz ritual spell. Must be ritual summoned by using monsters that are not level 10. Cannot be special summoned by other ways. Pretty standard. Now, during either player's turn, you can discard this card, then target 1 Nekroz monster you control, gains 1,000 attack and defense until the end of the turn. Defensively, it's pretty good. You want to keep a monster on the field, and they're trying to swing over it, you can send them to the graveyard, get an extra 1,000. Forbidden Lance from your hand that they can't really do anything about, which is really nice. The second effect is good too. You can target 1 set card your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, banish it. You can only use each effect once a turn. For decks like Burning Abyss and Shaddoll that are going to be playing cards in face-down defense position, This will get rid of them without having to worry about their floater effects. This also clears the way for your OTKs if there's only a back row you need to clear. A cool combo you can do with this card without getting too much into it. If you get UNICORE on board, discard, well, you start with one of the Jin guys, Manju or Senju. Normal summon them. Search a way to get this guy in your hand and get Fabled UNICORE, the Nekroz UNICORE on board. You discard Decisive Armor to boost Nekroz of UNICORE up to 3300. Play Nekroz Cycle to special summon Decisive Armor from the grave, and you have 8000 damage on board right then after you pop a back row. So that can get pretty crazy, but I like playing him at 1 for combos, and he also helps you get over a Jin lockdown, which we'll talk about. The only normal monster from the deck that I think is worth playing is Shrit, Caster of the Nekroz. If you were to summon exactly one Nekroz ritual monster, this can be used as the entire tribute. If it's tributed by a card effect, you can add a warrior type Nekroz ritual monster from your deck to your hand. And you can only use the effect of Shrit once a turn. So, and that's the searching effect, not the use as an entire tribute effect. So A, this is searchable by BRIONAC, so it helps you get your weird level ritual summon, since all the ritual spells require that it be exactly the level of the monster you're trying to ritual summon. This card can count as all of that. And then if it's tributed, you get to add the warrior type Nekroz ritual, which would be CLAUSOLAS, BRIONAC, and TRISHULA, your level 3, level 6, level 9 guys. And if you're paying attention, the 4 and 8 are spellcasters, the 5 and 10 are dragons. So there's kind of a little pattern going on there. So Shrit is very good. I like playing him at 2, searchable by Rhoda, searchable by BRIONAC, and really helps get your OTKs down if you're going to be adding cards with his effect. So now we're finally getting into the ritual spells, and I'll start with the best one. The first ritual spell, Nekroz KALEIDOMIRROR. It can be used to summon any number of Nekroz ritual monsters. You must also tribute one monster from your hand or field, or send a monster from your extra to the grave, whose level equals the total level of that ritual monsters. So, and well, yeah, you can only ritual summon with each ritual spell once a turn. And then they all have this second effect. If you control no monsters, you can banish it and a Nekroz monster from your graveyard to add any Nekroz spell from your deck to your hand. So a clear field means you get to search another ritual spell by banishing one spell from your grave and a monster. So this card is amazing for that reason. The fact that it searches out other copies of itself or other ritual spells makes the card worth playing immediately. Add in the fact that it can send monsters from your extra deck to the grave as tributes for ritual summon, and this card becomes insane. You don't have to summon more than one. You can summon 1, 2, 3, any of them. So one of the nice combos that I should talk about later, Nekroz KALEIDOMIRROR, to summon just Nekroz UNICORE from your hand. If you send the Herald of Arc Light from the extra deck to the grave, which is a level 4 synchro, that when it's sent to the grave from anywhere, you get to add a ritual spell or ritual monster from your deck to your hand. You're getting the monster out for free to start with, and then you get to search anything you need to continue your plays. You just put a 2300 beater on board and you're adding more pieces to get the OTK. This is how you want to start most of your turns if you're going to be pushing for damage or pushing for game. This is also a good way to start your opening play by summoning your UNICORE off of this to get a free plus, summoning a Manju or a Senju to get another free plus, making Outer God Nyarla, which is the ideal play, but assuming we're not getting that in the TCG for a while, a Laval chain is fine. We'll talk about those combos more later, but just wanted to give you an idea of how this card would be used. The next ritual spell is Nekroz Cycle. This allows you to ritual summon any Nekroz ritual from your hand or graveyard, but you have to tribute monsters from your hand or field whose level are exactly that. So what this would be used for mostly, what I use it for mostly, is to ritual summon the Decisive Armor from the grave after I've used it to bump up my Nekroz, or if I burn through my Trishulas or my BRIONACs, then it's a good way to do this. Normally you're going to want to use Shrit for Cycle, because that'll put it in the grave, and then you can use it for the next ritual spell. And like the other ritual spells, you can only use the ritual summoning effect of it once a turn, and you can banish it and the other monster to add another Nekroz spell. And the last ritual spell we're going to be talking about today, as you can see I made the mistake on the card when I was making the proxy. The card is called Nekroz Exomirror, not KALEIDOMIRROR. We already had KALEIDOMIRROR. It can be used to summon any Nekroz ritual monster. You must tribute monsters from your hand or field, and or banish Nekroz from your graveyard whose levels are exactly that of the ritual. You can only use the ritual summoning effect once a turn, and it has the recurring effect just like the other two. So this card is better late game than the other two by far. What this allows you to do is take the monsters that you've already used and burned through and get the free ritual fodder from the grave. A common play I make with this is banishing the BRIONAC and CLAUSOLAS from the grave to special summon the TRISHULA, or if it's mid game to late game and I've already burned through a Shrit and it's in the grave, Shrit can also count as the full ritual from the graveyard as well. So it can be devastating later in the game. Or if you're pushing for the OTK, this is generally the third one you want to activate. So real quick, I wanted to talk about some other cards that you're going to see played in this deck before I leave you here for this first episode. Senju and Manju, of the many hands. I don't know how they even have that many, but they have 1400 attack and 1000 defense apiece. When Manju is normal summoned or flip summoned, you can add a ritual monster or a spell. When Senju, it'll just add the ritual monster, but really you can add the spell too if you search CLAUSOLAS. And that can also search you Shrit, either of them, if you just grab BRIONAC. So really it's just finding your pieces as fast as you can. Then Reinforcement of the Army. I haven't decided quite how many copies of this card I like in this deck yet, but this really does help speed up the OTKs, as it can search your Shrit right out of your deck so you don't have to waste your BRIONAC search on it. Or it can search out your CLAUSOLAS if you're in need of a ritual spell. Another thing I've been testing with is to get out of the Djinn lock. I'm going to talk about Djinn first. So Djinn Releaser rituals up in the top right here. If you ritual summon a ritual monster, you can remove from play that card from your graveyard as one of the monsters that you would tribute for it. And while that monster is face up on the field, your opponent cannot special summon. This effect is not negatable. So if they affect Veiler, if they Fiendish Chain, if they whatever, this will not stop your opponent from being unable to special summon. This card is crazy good because you can send it to the graveyard with Evolve Chain on your first turn. Or, its level 3 isn't too awkward if you open it. So if you get the Nekroz Cycle, if you get the Nekroz Exomirror, this card is not actually terrible to have in your hand because then you're going to get two uses out of it. One for sending it from your hand to the grave, and then the second for banishing it from the grave. So this card can totally lock out your opponent, especially in the mirror match, and if they don't have an out, the game's just going to end. So what you can do with Reinforcement of the Army, and what I've been trying to do, a way to get around a Djinn lock is to send the new Burning Abyss monster from Secrets of Evolution, that is Farfa, the Malebranch of the Burning Abyss. If you send him to the grave, he can banish one monster in your opponent's side of the field until the end of the turn. And then when it returns to the field by that effect, the Djinn will no longer be applying. So what you can do, you can Reinforcement of the Army. You play one copy of Armageddon Knight and one copy of Shadow Dragon in addition to the one copy of Farfa. So between Armageddon Knight and the 3 Reinforcement of the Army, you're going to have 4 ways to get around the Djinn lock, plus Farfa, that makes 5. So you do have ways to get out of it if you play Reinforcement of the Army, which I really like. Herald of the Arclight up here is really critical to the deck. I would play at least 2, maybe 3 for the KALEIDOMIRROR into the UNICORE play. That's really critical. And the stupidest card in the deck that should never have been made, but rituals were never good, so it didn't really matter. Preparation of Rites. Add to your hand 1 level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck, then you can add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. Searching out BRIONAC with this allows you to search your deck for any of your rituals or Shrit. Searching out CLAUSOLAS grabs another one of your ritual spells if you need to. The card does so much for the deck, and if you have a ritual spell in the graveyard, you're going to be plussing off of it, and adding pluses to consistency just generally is a bad idea for Yu-Gi-Oh! But, you know what, if the deck's so stupid that you can abuse it, you're only making a mistake if you're not abusing what's wrong with the game, and if you ask me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you continue to watch the rest if I make them. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to my channel, thumbs up the video, and add some comments. Let me know what you guys think about this. I'm not sure how much I'm going to be doing with this series. I think either way I'm going to be playing Nekroz as soon as they drop, so Look forward to duels with this deck, and it's going to be a blast. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you later.